to Four Sisters, where we will give you tips on self-care, self-awareness, self-confidence, and show you all the ways you can love yourself. So get ready to laugh, cuss, cry, and pray. Welcome back, guys. It's episode 3. This is Kay speaking.
This is CiCi.
This is Dani.
And this is Sash.
And so the first segment we have today is Rants, Reads, and Resolutions, which is your all access to entertainment. So this week I will be addressing Iyanla Vanzant's new season of Fix My Life. Fix Your Life? Fix My Life.
Fix the life.
Somebody life.
Okay. And so with Iyanla, this season she has one particular person that I think had a Lifetime movie. Her name is Kamaya Mobley. She was she was kidnapped straight out of the hospital when she was first born. And she was raised by a lady who, I think her last name was Miss Mobley, I believe. So Miss Mobley walked into the hospital, and it was a hospital in Jacksonville, Florida, and she kidnapped this young lady, this baby, from her family. They never saw her again. So Iyanla decided that she is going to snatch this storyline and make it a part of her new season. So I'm pretty sure you all have seen the snippets from this season that she's released so far. I think the season starts tonight. And pretty much, Kamaya was about to steal off on Iyanla. She was about to give her that footwork. And so the interesting thing about it is, my read this week, or my rant this week, is how we allow these people to use us as a perk for their own ratings. So say, for instance, Kamaya needs some real therapy. She needs some CPT, which is cognitive processing therapy for trauma.
Yes,
she needs some CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. Like, she needs some real therapy. She don't need nobody life coach. No shade to life coaches. She needs life coach. She don't need no life coach. She needs real therapy. She needs to work out her problem. She was legit kidnapped. She was at 18 told that wasn't her mother. She still has a relationship with this lady now. And her parents don't like it because, like, this is the person that raised her, but these are her biological parents. And her biological parents, are not cool with her actually having a relationship with the person that kidnapped her, Miss Gloria. So what my question to you all is, when you see these TV shows that use us, but when they use us as ratings goal, this young lady is like pissed off in this trailer. How does that make y'all feel as therapists?
As a human, first, it pisses me off. And as a therapist, knowing what I know and knowing probably, like you said, what she needs, it further frustrates me. Like, I'm legit probably won't tune in to the episode. And, like, I have no issue with life coaches, but I know for me, nobody's going to come sit in my office and talk about everything about their bank account because they need an accountant. And so I feel like at some point, people need to speak up and say, this is out your lane. This is not cool.
Now, if she was a paid actor, I'd be like, all right, whatever, kicks and giggles. Well, like, this girl has legit been through stuff. Like, you were kidnapped. You were abducted from the hospital. The only mother you know is the mother that kidnapped you. You now build a relationship with these two people, to you, because they're two people, because they didn't raise you.
Yeah, I agree with Kay. You really have to stay in your lane when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I'll say, I don't know that much about what life coaches do. But I know, listening to this girl's story, I'm thinking like she needs therapy. And so I know there's a lot of dispute about life coaches versus therapists and but like there's some clinical things that are going on there, and she needs to talk to a therapist about, and it really shouldn't be something that's exploited on camera, because we don't even know what she's gone through. There's like some deep-seated things that are going on with her. So I hate it that she has to be on TV painted in this light, but this is another situation where y'all know I'll be minding my business, so I probably won't watch either.
I'm gonna watch it.
I'm gonna watch some of the more trashy ones to get my laughs and giggles in, but I don't feel right laughing at this baby.
Well, they're all bad in their own right if you look at the clips. Nasally is up there. She's got some deep rooted like light skin, dark skin issues.
Yeah, she does. I'm going to tune in and laugh at her. From a very petty place, but I'm not gonna watch this baby.
Well, here's the thing. I'm a little bit different. I understand as a therapist, like, yes, she needs more. But I don't watch the show to be laughing at people. I think any situation that I've watched every season. I'm a fan. And I'm okay with it. Because when she get on the thing, she says, I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a sister, I'm a brother, I'm an author and a preacher. She never says that I'm a therapist, so I never look at her in that light of I'm a therapist. So she's a peer mentor, and peer mentors matter. And so she's a QP, and they matter. They do their job, and I feel like she has done her own work. She used to be Shaquanda Jones. Shout out to the Shaquanda Jones in the world. But she used to be a Shaquanda Jones, and she changed her whole name because she felt like she did her work. And so she feel like in her right, she's qualified to do some of the things that she's doing. I feel like there's people in the background who are the real people who help her, because I've seen them in some shows where they come out and do things. That those are the people that are really doing the work. But she's out here doing what she's doing because she's got a TV show. And the way that things are edited and clipped out, you want to see that stuff. People want to see that stuff. That's how reality TV shows live. People tune into it. Is it right? Probably not. And should a girl get help? Yeah, she needs a lot more than what, Auntie Vanzant is doing. But, I'm tuning in.
So then let me ask you this question. As a family therapist, because you're the family therapist out of all of us. As a family therapist, when you see this young girl who has these different type of relationship dynamics, do you think a life coach can help that? Or do you think that she just really needs to skip life coach and go straight to a therapist?
I don't know what a life coach does. And so, I do think that she needs deeper therapy. But it might be something that Miss Auntie Yaya, sister, brother, cousin, father can do that, that might be helpful. But yeah, I think she definitely needs some they all need some deep-seated stuff that they're definitely not going to get through one TV show.
So I guess now that I'm hearing you talk about it, as the person who watches the show, because clearly we don't be watching. I'm
a fan.
I've seen clips here and there. So it sounds like her talking to them is more so kind of like a peer-to-peer or like a mentor conversation, a conversation that you might have, with just somebody that as opposed to her being out here like, I'm changing your life, I'm fixing your life, I'm a helping professional. It's just kind of like I'm a peer that's gone through some stuff and I'm helping you.
Yeah, she makes it real clear. I've done my own work and I'm your accountability partner. She states that throughout all the seasons that she's ever done. She don't ever come out. Now she getting a little fancy with the little hairdos and stuff, and she getting a little fancy with her little interventions and things that she do. She got people holding bricks and that kind of stuff. But I don't think that baby dolls and things. But but I don't think when I watch it, I think about an auntie. Okay. And I be like, ooh, girl, she said some things that I know I would never say in a therapy office. Like, peace. And that's right.
But see, then my concern is this. I have like a basic understanding of what a life coach does, and they do it over a span of time. My question is, how many episodes, like how long of a period of time is Iyanla doing this? Is it like a weekend? Is it a couple weeks? Because to me, if you are going to do it, then commit to it. Don't have it as like clips on the show. Like, I want to know that you spent 6 weeks with this whole family to, do this work, not just like 2 episodes. Right. Because I think back to when Karuchi was on Iyanla, and afterwards she was just like, she didn't help me. It was all for the show. It wasn't anything that was like, you really need this. Here's a referral, or here's some resources, or here's like, you need to continue this work. It was just like, oh, camera's off, bye, girl. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So that's my concern. I think that I'm going to watch it because it's, to me it's entertainment, and I think I'll try to keep it in the realm of entertainment. But then my concern is like, what happens after?
Yeah. Well, and I don't know everything about what goes on, but I have seen some episodes of the show where she was like, whoa, this is much bigger than me. I'm going to make sure that you get referred to somebody else. She has brought other people who are clinicians to talk to these people. I don't know how long. I know when she does those house shows.
That's what this season is.
That it's a long period. It's at least a weekend or a week's worth of stuff. And I know that's not anything to sort of break the surface of things that are going on. But she does do that. And like I said, on some seasons, I've seen where there's other people who I'm pretty sure that there are professionals in their own right who go and do some other things with the people that are on the show that she can't do, or that she's like, this is too much. Let me go figure out. When she leave and go home and take a nap, these other people are in the homes and stuff like that. So, because
my concern, one thing I will say, you know, I watched that season where she called Neffy a gutter snipe, and I was thinking to myself, like, you know, you're a life coach, so you can say that, but I wonder how much of this is like a trauma trigger for these people. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, what happens if it's the tone of your voice or the strength in your volume, or, you know, these different things where I'm like, okay, is this person going to need more damage after this weekend or week of going to this home? Or is this person going to see as like, okay, now this is my stage of change. Like, I really need to put into action a plan that's going to get me into therapy, etc. Because my concern is like with the young lady, Kamaya, she was about to set it off on Iyanla. Yeah. And I wonder, you know, I don't know what happened before, but I'm wondering, you know, Iyanla probably goes in with good intentions, but my concern is, okay, what's going to happen when you trigger somebody and they try to fight you because you're not qualified to handle the magnitude of what it is that they need help with.
Right.
You know, so like, yeah, it's good, but then it's that level of training that you don't have to recognize when to stop, when to start. Because Iyanla pushes because she wants that reaction because it's show. Right. It's the entertainment of it. But then I wonder, like, when you go back and say, okay, like, I shouldn't have called her a gutter snipe because, you know, what was she called as a child? Has she been called names all her life? And is that going to trigger her to and then go into a deeper depression, etc.? So that's why I just kind of wonder, you know, what work was done before, what work was done after. I'm going to watch it, but it just concerns me that we are in this mindset where it's like it's entertainment, but this is somebody's real life.
Yeah. But here's my other thing, too, about this. Iyanla's been around a long time, and it would really be weird for me to know, like, you've had to see, people sign up to do these shows. Yeah, and I don't mean no disrespect, but they sign up to do these shows. They sign up to know when the team reaches out, they agree to do it. So you know that you're putting yourself on television, and you know who and what she does, and you've seen what she's done. And so,
yeah, I'm not saying it's all their fault. I mean, all her fault, because it's definitely like if you show up to the set, it's a set. It's not an office. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, you know, it is everybody's responsibility to do their due diligence. Yeah. But if you go on the show, then you get what you get.
Yeah. Listen, I'm just going to be with my church fan, and I'm going to have my tea, and I'm just going to watch it.
I mean, I think y'all both made a lot of good points, because there is a lot of duality to this issue. Like, on the one hand, this is a TV show and it's entertaining. As humans, we like to hear other people's stories. We like to see what people have gone through. People are nosy, all that kind of stuff. And so she definitely is feeding the need there. But then there also is like a more deep-seated issue that's going on there, where these are really traumatized people. I mean, I'm sure Iyanla herself has her own triggers. So
yeah, because she's had a tough life, honey.
Yeah, because, I mean, it's kind of messy.
Miss Shaquanda Jones, honey.
Yeah, and her story, because I listened to her Super Soul conversation, like, her story is deep. So it's real tricky.
Yeah.
I hope that, you know, they are handling it with care. But, you know, the good thing about all of this is that regardless of what the outcome is on the show, there are great mental health professionals out here who can pick up the pieces no matter how much damage may or may not be done on this show. Yeah. So,
and we're bringing stuff to the light, whether it's good or bad. We're showing like these are things that actually happen in people's lives. And at the end of the day, I mean,
and you know, for some people, this might be the exposure that they need. They need to see, oh yeah, I relate to this. She's getting help. I might need to get some help too. So that's a positive. too, I guess.
And I will add this that, yeah, I think that's a big piece of it, but I feel like when the credits start rolling at the end, it needs to be a space that she was referred to therapy, or she was referred to different places to let them know that this was only the breaking point of her getting the help that she needs. I think it just needs to be acknowledged, and I would express that that's not all that it took to get her on the right set.
Ooh, you're right too, because I mean, I definitely don't want people to think that they can come into therapy or come into treatment and in a weekend or an hour episode and get their whole life fixed, because it's definitely way more long term and a lot more work than that.
She does do an update. I watch the show. She does do so I watch Auntie. She does do an update about how people are doing at the end of most shows, and just to sort of give like, this is what happened. Either they fell off or they are doing well, or whatever the situation may be. But I do agree, like, to have, these are the resources, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a good idea.
I wonder what happened to that relationship where the guy had like 30 kids and she was like, and you let a penis penetrate your friendship. Woo! I don't know what the end result was on that one. Because those words touch me.
Touch my soul.
Hello. Amen. Well, thank you, ladies. It seems like we are right at the point of just saying the verdict is still out on Iyanla. You know, she's good for what she is, and we have to compartmentalize her and keep her exactly where she is. So, thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Cool.
All right, guys. Here we are. This week, we decided to mash together Sister Circle as well with the wellness segment of Get Your Life this week, because we wanted to bring stigmas in the Black community to light and try to play like a Mythbusters type episode, so we can start to, almost like we wanted Iyanla to do, is start giving the resources or showing like how therapy can be beneficial to others, and how other hats and other people can play a support into helping you get back on the right track.
Yep. So this week we are going to have some wellness tips along with a very deep conversation, and we decided to call it Get Your Sister. Get your sister, bring her on. We're going to have this conversation about mental health stigmas. You ready, Kay?
I'm ready. All right, I guess we'll start with a definition of stigmas. A stigma is just a mark of disgrace associated with a particular circumstance, quality, or person. So we wanted to bring to light, like I said, the ones that are specific to Black communities in regards to mental health. I'll start with my first one that was pretty much rooted within my family in general, not just with mental health, but just all things. What happens in my house stays in my house.
Stays in my house.
And that means everything. Like, something bad happens to you, you want to tell it. But if you tell it, you are afraid of the consequences that may unfold once you get home for telling it. And I try to unpackage that and put it where it's supposed to be, because it's places for that. It's places for what happens in my house stays in my house. Don't go out telling everything that goes in my house, but it's a limit to know that when danger,
right?
Is
like
going
if
on
you
in
didn't
house.
pay the Time Warner cable bill, I don't need to go tell the teacher that. But if like you beat me up, I might need to go tell the teacher.
Right, I need to tell the teacher why my eye black.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm pretty sure, I know that I have had somebody come and talk to me and say that professionally. You know, I was told what happens in my house stays in my house, and us having to unpack that in a session. What about y'all?
A lot. Almost to the point where, like, when you come in, we do our general assessment to figure out where we need to start to help you. That's number one. They don't want to talk to you. And that right there is the reason. I've had, I think, a small baby look at her mama when she was telling me all the things that were going on, and she like
getting assurance, like, can I say this or not?
Right. Yeah, can I say this or not? Or looking at her mom like, you telling my business, but you don't want me to tell your business,
Right.
So
I definitely had a client, and I swear every time I just wanted to tell her, like, blink twice if you were in danger. I think that is in some families. I never had that growing up, but it just definitely is. It rings true to a lot of clients I've dealt with.
Another one is almost like Dani was talking about, the one that you dealt with. You just crazy, basically like brushing it off as if it's like not a big deal, minimizing how serious like the situation is another one that play a part in like the Black community, in almost probably all communities.
Yeah.
That piece there, it's just that mental health stigma, like, yeah, something wrong with you, but we're gonna just rub it off as you crazy.
Right.
And, you know, and I wonder, what is crazy? Like,
I can't define it for you.
you know, it's interesting because that word is thrown around so often.
Yeah, I've
you
used
crazy, they crazy, she crazy, that bitch crazy, like crazy. And it's like, but what is that? Help me to understand what exactly crazy is. And like when we're saying this person is crazy, does that mean that like that's okay, that's their normal, we're fine? Like, what do we mean when we say that?
I'm gonna go deeper. I cannot stand, and it's almost a trigger for me when I'm talking to somebody about a diagnosis like PTSD or bipolar or schizophrenia, and the first thing that comes out of someone's mouth is, oh, that's just crazy, or they crazy, or, you know, oh, that's just a crazy person's diagnosis, or does that mean I'm crazy, or whatever the word is, or the way you're saying it. What you're doing is you're saying that someone who has an actual diagnosis, because of whether it's genetic or heredity or environmental or whatever it is, you're saying, oh, that doesn't exist. It's just that they're crazy. That triggers me every time, because I have to explain to people, because I'm concerned that they're going around telling everybody else that. Like, oh, well, you know, she just crazy because she got PTSD. And then now everybody assumes that if you have PTSD, that equates crazy. And then that stops the whole process of people coming into the office, because you've heard in your mind that PTSD equates crazy. You're not coming in because you don't want to be crazy.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also, you know, how things have been portrayed and nobody's really talking about it and there's no education about it. So it's safer to be like somebody's crazy than to really address and to deal with it. And I think that's what people do.
Yeah, they hide behind that label of crazy.
Yeah.
Another one that I found and I've heard is, I don't trust people. People don't even walk through the door for the initial therapy sessions because that piece, I don't trust people. It may have come from some real deep rooted stuff of not trusting people because people let them down for so many times, or just in general you were taught not to trust people.
Or they've had a bad experience with a therapist in the past, so they're like, "Oh, I'm not." You know, you what you do is you generalize or overgeneralize it, where you take one experience and you make it every experience. So like, oh, I got into a car accident, so every time I get into a car, I'm gonna get into a car accident. No, every time you get into a car, you will not get into a car accident. Just like if you had a bad experience with a therapist, every time you won't have a bad experience. But you know, you having that issue of trust is what you need to be working on in therapy.
Well, you know, all people are not the same. There are some people that you can't trust with your private information. There's some people that you can. And the thing about therapists is that we are people that you should be able to trust. Like, we're trained to be able to talk with and help people and value your confidentiality. So it's really unfortunate that one thing that keeps people away is feeling like they can't trust people because they've had experiences, or thinking that, like, you know, if they've got some stuff going on in their home, they're scared that you're going to have to report that. And we do. And having to have very hard and honest conversations with people about, like, you know, yeah, if you come to me and you tell me that somebody's abusing you, I have to value your safety. I have to make sure that I'm keeping you safe.
Yeah.
And just like in any relationships, you have to discern based off of what you know and what you're comfortable with, if this is a healthy relationship. And that includes a therapist as well. If you go into a therapist's office and you don't feel like you can trust them, you just get an eerie vibe, go off of that gut feeling. You can fire your therapist. You can start all over again. I fired a therapist and I am a therapist. So, you know, it is what it is. But if you go into the office and you don't feel comfortable, you know, I would say give it a session or two, because sometimes it can be the awkwardness of a first session. But if you get in there and you're like, this doesn't feel right, I don't feel like I can trust you, then your gut is probably telling you that for a reason, because everybody doesn't have your best what at heart?
Interest.
Thank you.
No matter the title.
Right.
No matter the title.
2 points on that, because I always tell people when they come into my office that this is customer service. This is therapy, but like this is a customer service. And you know, you wouldn't go to McDonald's and ask for some chicken nuggets and get a quarter pounder and be cool with that. You came for your chicken nuggets, you need to get your chicken nuggets. And so if you feel like I'm not giving you your chicken nuggets when you're sitting in here talking to me, let me know. Because that either means that I need to change something, or we need to get you to the place where your chicken nuggets are. Second thing,
that's a real good one. I like it.
I'm very analogy heavy in my therapy. The other thing too off of that though is that sometimes people use that as a form of avoidance of like, oh well, I don't trust you, or I don't like you,
that's true.
and so then they try to run away from that. So that's something that we always have to, as professionals, we have to be mindful of. But
I always tell people, give me 30 days. Let's see what we can do in 30 days. And, you know, you get a refund.
That's most return policy.
You don't actually get a refund, y'all. We will not get your money back. FYI, disclaimer on that. Don't come to my office and you get a refund after 30 days, because you ain't, girl. That is it for you.
Listen, all I can say is you can just reclaim your time back.
Yeah, there you go. Reclaiming my time. That's what you're going to get.
Take it back.
Yes.
Those were some of the stigmas I had. I know you guys probably have heard some or came across some that we probably need to dissect and do some myth busting around as well. So what have you guys seen or heard or read?
Ooh, well, mine is that asking for help is a sign of weakness. People say that all of the time, and I feel very, 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 very strongly about that, because actually asking for help is normal. You're supposed to ask for help. It is a sign of strength. It's what you're supposed to do. That is why there are multiple people on this earth. It's not just you, because we are supposed to help one another, lean on one another, be in communion with one another. So asking for help is what you're supposed to do, and making sure that you're asking for help from appropriate people. You know, if you are asking for help from somebody that doesn't have the resources, of course that's going to cause you disappointment. But therapy isn't that. You're asking for help from somebody who's qualified and trained. Like, somebody's pouring into you. So I think another thing about, I think specifically for Black women, we are kind of taught to
put that cape on,
put your cape on, and that you've got to be everything for everybody, and you can never take time for yourself, and that's not true. What was that, the Jada Pinkett, that little interview that she did with her mom? She was talking about the airplane mask, where it's like, if you're on a plane, they always tell you to put your mask on first, because you can't help somebody else if you're over here dying yourself. And so
I ain't helping nobody if my plane go there. You're on your own. Put my mask on and I'm up out of here. Go.
But I mean,
Sheesh.
You kind of have a point. Sometimes it is okay, like it is necessary for you to be selfish, because if you don't have, if you're depleted, you can't help anybody. If I put $5 worth of gas in my car, but I try to go $10 worth down the road, I'm only gonna make it $5 worth. True. So you need to be pouring into yourself.
Yes, with that analogy.
I told y'all. Goodness. People in my office either be like, yes, or they'll be like, I don't get where you're going. That's okay too. That's mine. Asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Mine is exhaustion is a white woman thing. Oftentimes, I see reports where a white woman is, she's suffering from exhaustion, so she checked herself in, or she's suffering from, checked herself into like a hospital or somewhere, or she's suffering from exhaustion, so she is going to, take some time off. And I feel like as African American women, we scoff at that. We are like, oh, she was just tired. We don't get tired. Like, what Kevin Gates say? I got 10 jobs. I don't get tired. Like, no, I got one job and I be tired as hell. So what I will say is this. African American women have to recognize the signs of exhaustion, depression, anxiety. I will say that we have to stop thinking it is a certain culture or a certain gender that this thing happens to. It happens to all of us. But as Sasha said, we try to go as far as we can and we deplete ourselves. And then our tank runs empty. And then we're just like out here on fumes trying to help everybody else. And I think that I get exhausted. I get tired. If you got more than one job, I know you get exhausted. I know you get tired. And I don't even have kids and I get tired. So y'all mamas out there, you get tired. You get exhausted. There are days where you feel depressed. There are days where you want to lay down. And you have the right to. You have to allow yourself the ability to just sit, reflect, or sit and just take time for yourself. But to say, oh, well, that's a white woman thing or that's for them over there. No, that's for all of us. And it is real.
Yeah.
Oh, girl, this thing is touching my heart. Those things are making me angry.
That was a read right there. Like, you have the right to take care of yourself. You have the right to take a nap. You have the right to just be like, look, I need 5 minutes. Let me get that. Because when you're giving, and that's what Black women do, you need to be able to just take some time for yourself and don't feel guilty for that. If anybody can look you in your face and tell you that you don't deserve to have time for yourself, they don't need to be around. They are not somebody that has your best interest at heart. They're selfish.
That touch my soul.
Is selfish.
That's selfish.
Yes.
And because our families will come up and be like, girl, get on up. Ain't nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, it is. I've worked all week.
I got worked up in that moment. I was like, square up. I was really high. A square up moment. Like, don't you ever let anybody tell you that you don't deserve time for yourself. Or you don't deserve to take care of yourself.
And I think that perception is being infused in our babies. And the little ones, like I had a middle schooler. I had to put her on a scale of I can do this to a scale of I can't do this without support, and break it down to her and say, girl, where are you at with all these things? And this is a 6th grader having to let her know it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. And I think it's a horrible disservice to African American women. Like, we confuse the idea of being independent and I can do all these things with like, hey, like, I can't, and it's okay. Like, I think we look into it like, I'm an independent woman. I don't need no help. I don't need none of this. I don't need none of that. I don't need to take a nap. I can stay up 24 hours a day and do all these things. And it's like, you're really causing yourself damage and harm because when you lay down, honey,
all that
you might not be able to get back up.
Hello? And I could give y'all a history lesson for where all of this come from, but that's a whole nother episode. However,
go ahead.
My bad. It was their eyes were watching God, and the quote in there, it says, Black women are the mules of the world. Mules carry everything on their backs, and it's like we are responsible for everything and everyone. We're not, for Black people, this isn't a patriarchal society, it's a matriarchal society, and it's like the Black mama is everything, and that's not fair. If if there's 2 people in a household, then that weight should be distributed. Black mamas should not have to be all of the things.
Where's my church fan?
And on top of that, I will say this as well. Erykah Badu called us bag ladies for a reason, because eventually those bags will break your back. But I think that for the moms of our show, or the wives of our show, because we have 2 wives, that they are, and I'm gonna throw y'all out there, y'all are very independent women in a relationship. And so I see you all often doing everything, but my question is, how do you all address this personally?
This is Kay. This is a tough segment for me.
Go on now.
Woo! Who had to throw on
Only there were cameras in this room right now.
I got some
This is a tough segment for me because I am now shifting that level of I need to do all this by myself and it isn't that my husband didn't want to. I didn't allow him to. Those are two different things. Right before I had my daughter, right after I had my daughter, everybody know I went in that deep depression. Like it was real. It was a real thing. And for me, I was one of those people saying that I knew what it was because I knew the signs and the symptoms, but I kept it to myself and kept suffering. And then I realized that I needed to allow other people in. And when I started to allow other people in, I saw that I was not the only one suffering. Not saying that I didn't already know that, but for me, my value and my level of education as a therapist was kind of sort of weighing heavy on me because it's like my mama said, my grandma said, I can do this. I can do this. My grandma did it. Why can't I? My mama did it. Why can't I? And when I started to suffer, I thought I was less than. And that really like took a toll on me mentally until I realized I just needed to ask for help and it was okay. And that's when my three other sisters in this room, they came and they supported me. I had great friends in my corner. I had great family in my corner. And then I started to feel better because I started being able to divvy out ways that they can support me. But yeah, like you said, it was tough because I was like, I got 2 kids now. What am I going to do? How am I going to be strong enough for them? How am I? Not knowing that I have a whole husband.
Well, you knew that.
And I knew I had a whole husband. But that I was still there, not looking at this relationship as a team. And he's like he's like feeling sad and down because I'm feeling sad and down and he don't know what the hell to do to help me.
Or even probably understanding what the issue was.
Right.
Because, it's a long standing thing. I think our generation of women are strong and independent because we were taught to be strong and independent, not knowing that the women before us who were doing this, it was because they had to. And so it's like, men have been enabled to kind of like not have to do as much because women have been like, oh no, we're going to do everything. And I think we're getting to the point now in our generation where we're starting to reprogram and change this idea of like, we do have 2-parent households again. It's not, there still are single moms. Shout out to everybody that's a single mom because you're working hard and you're doing your thing. But like, for a lot of people now, they have a partner, they have a husband, and it's like, it's okay for you to rely on that other person. That's what they're there for. You're not weak for allowing your man to take care of you at all. That's just what he's there for, is to be a helper to you and to be a partner for you. Yeah, child.
What was your answer?
CiCi.
So
she picked. We're just gonna come back around.
No, but honestly, like listening to Kay, like that too is my story. Like I'm pretty much, I'm gonna do it all. I can do it all. I'm gonna do everything that needs to be done in this house, and not realizing like, hey, like my husband can do some stuff too. And again, it's not because he didn't want to. It's just that I was taking over the lead because a little bit of me is, you're not doing it the way I would do it.
Or fast enough.
You're not doing it fast enough, so no mind, I got it. And, I'm wearing myself out when it's like,
I didn't have to.
I didn't have to. Like, let him do what he gonna do, because it's gonna get done, and it's gonna get done. Like, but, yeah, that's me.
Because Granny said there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat.
Okay.
Who said that?
My grandma.
I thought you said Brandy.
No.
I said Brandy. No, what I
No, Brandy.
So yeah, working out, trying to figure out, letting me allow other people to do stuff, and I'm still working on that. So I'm like, ooh, child.
It's like real life reprogramming.
Y'all get me together every time because I be running around here looking crazy, and y'all be like,
sit down.
Sit still.
Just breathe. Just chill out, Cherry.
But I can say when you do take that breather and you take that moment, you have that opportunity to say, "Oh, I can divvy this out to somebody else."
Yeah.
But when you get in that mode and you just on the go, like you're a road runner.
Yeah.
You feel like it all got to get done. And if it don't get done, it's all gonna fall back on you, and you're gonna feel like a failure. And it's like that fast. That round
it is.
work.
That is true.
And I'll say too, now I rely on y'all a lot for a lot of different things, but that I probably would have never done a long time ago. But it's like I'm at the point now where it's like I'm so grateful that I have people in my life that I can go to for help, and I have people in my life that I can rely on when I need some help with something. And it makes it that much easier to go to you and have a conversation when I'm having a rough day or something, because I know that there's going to be support on the other end and not somebody looking at me like, girl, you all right.
It's an empathy aspect. I understand where you're coming from. I'm not going to give you sympathy because, I've never been through it. Like, I've been there. So, this is the get your sisters, because like we've all been there, so we should all be able to identify something in ourselves or something in an event or a situation that we can say, okay, I get where you're coming from. This is what helped me, or this is what I tried. Maybe this can help you, or let's brainstorm some things that can help you in this moment. But I'm never, to a fellow sister, I will never say like, oh, get over it, move on. Like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. Or I'm not, the one thing that bothers me is when you're telling somebody how you feel, then they start talking to you about what happened in their life. Like, respond to me first, and then let's go to you. Girl, help me. Yeah, like, help me. I want to help you first. You help me, and then we go to you next or something.
Or being like, oh, yeah, that ain't that big of a deal. I've been through X, Y, and Z. It's like, we're not comparing traumas. We're not comparing problems. Like, problems are problems. If somebody came to me and they're like, oh, I skipped my knee and I'm devastated, let's talk about you skinning your knee and being devastated. I'm not going to be like, damn, I broke my knee. What you talking about?
Can you break your knee?
Shut up.
Just go with it.
Shattered it.
Like, I focused on the wrong things.
You did. It's like, no, I'm not going to compare wounds with you. I'm going to be there for you while you're telling me what you're going through. People do that.
Is something that really needs to be trained. Like,
Because
we don't. Us is. And I'm pointing to my hand. We don't do good at that. No. Like, we are always comparing, and that's a whole separate issue. Because that's some deep-seated stuff. That,
because Brene Brown said in one of her TED Talks, I'm such a freaking nerd.
Who's Brene Brown?
You don't know Brene?
You don't
Brene
know
Brown?
Brene
Brown? Still don't know her. Who's she?
She's a wonderful licensed clinical social worker who is a professor and an author, and she's been on Oprah stuff. Like, she's amazing, and she does a lot of work and talks about vulnerability.
Maybe I have. Will she have a Super Soul podcast?
Yeah, she does.
I listen to hers. Okay, I know what you're talking about.
And so one of her TED Talks, she talks about how in order for you to be empathetic to somebody, you've got to be willing to put yourself in their shoes. And a lot of times people struggle with that because they don't want to put themselves back in that place of hurt. And so then they deflect, or they are combative with you because they don't want to go back to that painful place. Like, she was talking about a parent, and if you had a lot of trauma in middle school and your kid is talking to you about their difficulties in middle school, it's going to be hard for you to empathize with that because you don't want to go back and relive your own pain. And that was some deep stuff because I had never even thought about that, and it made me kind of take a step back when I think about other people being able to empathize with me and realize that, like, maybe they can't because it's too hard for them, and that just means that I might need to just have this conversation with somebody that is able to support me, somebody that is able to, have some empathy for me in this situation, and just let them do their own thing. I may be able to talk to them about something else that's not as triggering for them.
So who had the stigma, I thought I was supposed to feel like this?
Me. And I just think people come in, have no idea that there's something different that they can do or that they can be or that they can feel. And I think they've lived a whole life of feeling anxious or having symptoms of PTSD, and they just normalize it like, this is just my life. I thought this is who I was supposed to be. I thought this was normal and regular, without understanding like, no, you're like this because of things that have happened to you, and you don't have to be like this.
And that's what depression feel like. Yeah.
I had a conversation with a client one time about insomnia, and she was like, oh, I got insomnia because my mom and my grandma had insomnia. I was like, no, you had insomnia because you got PTSD, and that's one of your symptoms. Like, you have to be able to, you got to be able to separate. Like, yeah, you know, it can be genetic. You know, you could have insomnia because everybody else in your family has insomnia. Or it could be because you were sexually abused and, you know, molested as a child. Or it could be, you know, so much bigger. You just have to unpack that bag and look at why you have insomnia, or why you have ADHD or OCD or whatever the other acronyms are. But I think that a lot of times we just say, oh, I just got it. Right. But you don't unpack the bag as to why you have it. You're going to take the medication. You're going to take melatonin until melatonin don't work no more. And then wonder why. Because you're not unpacking your bag.
That was deep. That was deep. It just goes back to like an analogy of like, you go to the doctor to get better, and when you're not getting better, they're going to refer you elsewhere, or you're going to keep going back until you're getting the right thing or the answers.
And a lot of y'all ain't going to the doctor, FYI.
Well, I mean,
we need to start with the primary care before we get to therapist. Hello? Amen.
It took me a while,
okay,
to find one, and that was. So what, Danielle? So what?
Let me tell you something.
So what,
One thing that my mom told me, and I think this is why this is like bred in me. My mom made me go to the dentist 2 times a year. I had to go to the primary care whenever something was wrong, and at least for a physical once a year. I had to go to the eye doctor 2 times a year. And I mean, I really did have vision problems. But like, my mom made it very consistent. If something was wrong, I had to go to the ear, nose, and throat doctor. If something was wrong, I had to go to, you know, this doctor. Like, my mom bred in me, if something is wrong, you have to figure out what's wrong. Like, you have to just not, you know, go on Google and try to self-medicate or, you know, whatever it is. You have to figure out what is wrong. No, nobody likes to pay copays. Nobody likes to get that bill in the mail. I understand that. But it's like that ability to say, I have the answer. Where do I go from here? And that's what therapy is. You figure out what the answer is together with your therapist, and you create a plan of action on where you go from here. It's the one thing that you need in life that you don't even realize you need. So.
And here's the thing, you don't have to have like some horrible thing happen to you in order for you to need therapy. That's another, you know, stigma. Something's got to be wrong in order for you to need therapy. Sometimes people don't have quality people in their life that they can talk to. They don't have quality supports in their life. Yeah. And that's another thing that we do, is be able to come in and talk to us, and we can show you other views of a situation. All you know is your perspective, and it's another perspective. You don't know any quality skills to deal with everyday life. Come in and get some skills. It doesn't mean that you gotta like be on my couch for the rest of your life. You might come in for a few sessions, get what you need, and go on. You know,
like proactive versus reactive. Reactive, something has happened. Proactive is I'm preparing myself and creating a foundation, so if something were to happen, I'm prepared.
Right. Although you was throwing shade with them doctor conversations, because you know I'll Google something in a minute. I might have strep throat. I might have cancer. We'll see.
Y'all know I was dying that week. I was telling the goodbyes and all.
Oh my God.
Because well, MD will have you out here like.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, the one thing I will say, and I'm truly thankful for my mom. Shout out, Mom. But I'm truly thankful because she was a woman who at the same time reminds me a lot of you, Kay and CiCi, but was very much like, I'm still going to rely on other people to give me some help. Like, she showed me the best of both worlds, where I was like, okay, I could be independent, but I also have this aspect where I can rely on others. And so growing up in that household showed me, okay, then you can be independent, but then at the same time you can rely on others. Like, there's 2 different ways of it. You just have to find that balance, a healthy balance for it.
Right. And like you said, like, well, I think Sash, you said it, like, is in a sense, reprogrammed, because all of us didn't have those values growing up. Like, I love my mom to death, but of course, it's always, like, I don't hold her at fault for what she didn't know, because she just didn't know. But at the same time, that's a different, your household was just very different, and then we have to understand that everybody's households weren't the same.
Yeah, that's true. And I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just being able to share the wealth with our knowledge and add it to someone, because it may be an area that we had that you didn't have, like that was a weaker area that you weren't and didn't have a lot of value or teaching on coming up, and we can give you that benefit, and then you give us the benefits that you have. Help a sister out,
help a sister out. And I think too, like, sometimes some parents taught what they knew. They didn't have any of these other kind of resources, like my family, we came from like a very small town. There wasn't a lot of resources and stuff, so I think people did the best that they could with what they had. And then a lot of people, sometimes negative experiences or trauma are intergenerational, and so sometimes it's very hard for you to get support within your family, because everybody kind of has their own trauma, their own issues that are going on. And it's okay for you to step outside of your family unit and get the help that you need, and then bring that help back to them, or show them, be modeling for them that you can step outside of here, get help that you need from somebody else, and then we can come back and work together as a family. So I think some of what happens for our generation is that we are kind of like teaching our parents, and we're showing extended family members a different way to live, and showing them that it is possible, and it's not like any shade, like, oh, I'm better than you, or you should do things my way. It's like, no, hey, there's a whole another side of the world out here that we have access to now. Jump on this train with me. Which I kind of jumped ahead as far as like, how do we reduce stigma? That's one of the ways, is going and getting your own help and telling people, this is what helped me.
Yeah. Taking it back to the community.
I think education is important in order to decrease stigmas. I think the issue is that a lot of us don't know because we don't learn about it. And you're waiting for someone or something to happen in order for you to know. But I think that if we were to educate ourselves just in general, like if you come into my office and I feel like I have to spend maybe 4 or 5 sessions on just educating you, then that you may feel like, oh, she's wasting my time, but I'm really not, because that is the foundation of everything is education. I feel like if you talk to people, that helps as well. Having open conversations and not being scared of what people are going to say or how they're going to feel, or that they're going to call you crazy. I think education and communication are 2 ways to continue to break the cycle when it comes to stigmas.
And when it comes to education, like, really find it somewhere in yourself to embrace it, because a lot of times, I think you were talking about going in and getting what you need and then sharing it with somebody else, but then the somebody else is like, oh, nah, you being this and that. But really, it's embrace the education. Like, be open to learn something new. And I think that's a huge problem in our society and our culture.
And you know what? Granted, we're talking about going to therapy and like letting that be your education. But for some people, let's just be realistic. They're listening to this podcast and you're probably pondering, do I want to take this step or not? But how do I still get information? Man, let me tell you about my best friend Google. Like, Google will be there for you in the midnight hour. I mean, anytime you need Google, it is there. All you got to do is pull up a browser, whether that's on your phone or your tablet or your whatever, your computer. Ask Google some questions, and Google always has some answers. Granted, I'm a therapist and I learned a lot of stuff in school, but other stuff outside of that, I watch a lot of stuff on YouTube, like just looking up a video about trauma or something. I watch a lot of stuff on like documentaries on like Netflix or something.
We listen to other podcasts.
There are TED Talks out there.
Super Soul, honey. Super Soul.
Right. There are books that you can read. There are articles. Get on Pinterest and type in mental health. I mean, you can go for days and days and days on stuff. If you want the information, it's out there. And then once you get to the point where you're comfortable talking to somebody about it, come in at that point in time. Therapy is wonderful and it's great, but we also, let's not kid ourselves. Like, I definitely want people to come to my office that are ready to do the work, not people that are like kind of pondering around. So if you're not committed to it yet, just do some research and get yourself comfortable.
I think another one that I personally struggle with, as well as people who come into my office, is avoidance. I think that we know. But that was my devious laugh.
That was like, she says that I said some shade, and then she laughed the shade back. We didn't say it to each other, but those were shady laughs. That's what I know.
Yeah.
But so avoidance is one of the things where it's like, you know the answer, but you choose not to address it, or you choose not to implement your action plan. It's like, I know that, like, those people were like the dentist. I know that my tooth is decaying, or I know that my tooth is shattering or breaking apart, and that's where it stops. I know this, and there is nothing after it. Versus the people.
Don't be that tragic. Don't be that tragic.
But avoidance is like, I don't want to have to pay the bill, or avoidance is I don't have to schedule the appointment, or the avoidance is I don't have to go through the pain of getting a root canal or whatever it may be.
But you want to fight somebody.
You said avoidance is
your birthday.
Right. Hello?
Avoidance is I don't want to have to pay for it.
But okay. But what I will say in this situation is that, sometimes you do have to hit life head on. I'm still stuck in the shade. But sometimes you do have to hit life head on, and sometimes, the one thing that I will tell people, and I need to quote, like, make this a patented quote: therapy is there to make you uncomfortable. If you come into my office and you are comfortable, I'm not doing my job. My job is to make you as uncomfortable as possible, because once you get out of your box, that's when you make progress. So when you hit avoidance head on, you're going to be uncomfortable. But understanding that within that uncomfortable feeling, you will make progress, and you just have to be okay with knowing that you're going to be uncomfortable. And avoidance is saying, I know that in order to stop avoiding, I have to allow myself to be uncomfortable. And you have to sit in that and feel it. Period.
Yep. You got to create a new normal. Everything that is going on in your life right now is that's normal for you. These are the habits and patterns that you've already set. And in order for you to get better, you've got to create a new one. And that is going to cause discomfort. But you're going to look back on it 6 months, a year from now, and be like, oh, I'm way different. Like, things are better now. And you're going to forget all about the discomfort, and it's just going to seem easy. But it takes work.
Let me do my work, Lord.
I mean, to be honest with you, we all in here reading each other. I mean, it is what it is, because, I mean, even though we are therapists, like I always tell people, I'm a human being as well. I have my shortfalls, and I know that. And there's a lot of things that... Don't look at me. I did not want to look up and see you looking at me. But
you were talking. That wasn't even
well, there are some things that I know I'm still in the process of working on. And I have the tools and I have the skills, and I avoid. So I know that it's going to be equally as hard for everyone listening to this to know that if I struggle with it, I know you struggle with it. Just like I struggle with everything else that we talk about. But I'm always going to be a work in progress, because I will always try to better myself. And that's all you can do is try.
I'm a therapist, but I'm a human being first. And you can take that for what it is. Like, nobody's ever going to come in my office and feel like you're talking to somebody that's better than you, or that's above you. Because, child, I might cry when you leave. Like,
I was about to say, it's been many a session. I'm like, girl, don't you sit here and cry, girl. Don't you do it.
Like, ooh, girl, my eyes are sweating up in here.
I feel like sometimes God will send somebody into your office because you need to read yourself in a moment. So it's like, don't think that therapists are perfect people. We are just people who have a heart for this work, and we want to make sure we're Iyanla in a way. We've gone through some stuff, and we want to make sure that we are doing our due diligence and helping the next person. Each one, teach one. Is that what it says?
Mm-hmm. That's a full circle moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even though I don't get paid like her, but I think that the only thing.
But you will.
Let's speak that into all the existences.
Yes, God, I claim it.
But I think, in summary, I think that we touched on education, communication, avoidance, are very important factors in addressing stigmas and making sure that we don't create this generational, I don't want to say curse, but that is what it's called, but it's generational cycle of, not wanting to seek out help, even if it's not a therapist. If you want to go to a life coach or a motivational speaker, what's the word? A motivational speaker presentation. Whatever it may not even be the word, it doesn't matter. Y'all ain't gonna judge it. But you knew what I was saying, though.
Yeah, I get you.
But okay, as long as you know what I'm saying. But
you don't want to talk about it. You want to save your coins, get you a journal, and find some really good questions and write down the answers to those questions.
I actually got a really good book the other day from Marshall's that had a journal, but it had questions already in it, and it was on the clearance section. I think I paid $5.50 for it.
Yes, boo.
Okay.
And for the free 99, like Sash was saying, there's a whole, get you probably a notebook you use in school, or you just write down the grocery list. And there's 100 quotes. I have a whole private board of self-discovery. That's what I called it as my board. And it's a whole bunch of journaling topics that I could potentially use if I fall short of not knowing what to write about and where to start. We got to start somewhere.
Yes.
And also remember, there is no such thing as a perfect client. A lot of times people come in and they're just like, I have to be at this place in order to do therapy. You can come at any range or any scope or wherever you are in life, any tough time, any good time, whatever. There's no perfect client. So if you're thinking I have to be ready for therapy, get that out your mind, because there's no such thing as a perfect client. Right. So if you're thinking to yourself, I have to be at this place or I have to do this thing, then you're not going to ever come in, because you're going to create more and more excuses as to why you can't. Read from
we meet you where you are.
Yes, that's our job.
Shameless plug. Shout out to all my social workers out there. It's March. It's Social Work Month. I appreciate you, boos. If y'all are listening, if you know a social worker, give them a hug. Tell them you love them.
Okay.
That was a nice plug, Sasha.
So are we ready for the benediction?
I think we might be. Any last thoughts?
Okay, I'm gonna leave everybody with this here quote that was in an article that I found on National Alliance on Mental Health, that African Americans are 20% more likely to experience serious mental health problems than the general population, but we're probably less than likely to seek the treatment needed to recover.
That's a word.
Yes.
That is a word.
Wow.
And so if you know some people in your life who have some negative thoughts about mental health, or you're trying to break that barrier with family and friends, we are more than happy to be the conversation starter. Play this podcast with the people. Let us do all your dirty work for you, because these conversations are needed based off of what Kay just told us. Black people aren't going to therapy, and we need to.
Yeah.
And there also is a segment of us that a lot of times we want someone who looks like us. You have 4 African American therapists that you're listening to right now, and there are more out there. So if it's a concern of, wanting to feel like you're talking to someone who understands you, even though I'm not saying that our Caucasian counterparts can't, but just research. There are a lot of different resources out there that can help you find an African American therapist, whether they're black or white. So just keep that in mind as well.
True. And if you are looking for a black therapist, African American therapist, there is a site, Therapy for Black Girls, and she has a whole directory of black therapists. You can put in your city or your whatever location you're in, and she has therapists in every area, and it's being updated all the time. So,
And the benediction.
Thank you for tuning in to Get Your Sister. Don't forget to get her.
Bring us right on along. Sweep us on out with this benediction.
Woo, Lord have mercy. Well, this has been a wonderful show as usual. But I wanted to sort of say the last stigma that I think we have in our culture is that a lot of times we go to church for our needs and the church responds back, oh, just pray about it, pray the spirits away. So I wanted to, it's going to be a little bit more of a misty rain rather than a sprinkle today. I felt the need to speak a word. So, when I was thinking about this podcast, the whole reason that I wanted to be a part of it was to sort of figure out how I could bridge my two worlds together, which is my faith and mental health. And so I think that oftentimes it's a huge distance in that area. And so I hope that my little segment can do some sort of justice to sort of bridging those things together. So I would like to say to my Christian friends and my Christian family that sometimes it's not okay to just throw the Bible at people and Bible verses at people and expect that to be the all-out healer and that's going to work.
Ooh, hallelujah.
That's hard to say.
A hymn.
Say it again for the people in the back.
We have to do more as Christians and tell people to just pray about it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of places and churches, and I'm only speaking of what I've heard and what people have come into my office and said, that sometimes people at church, they spend more time focusing on like medical diagnosis and sort of rallying around people around that versus when somebody's like, I hear voices and they be like, oh,
that's the devil praying away, girl.
Right, I don't know nothing about that. So
everything is the devil, child.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I really think that the Bible is the Bible and it speaks for itself, and I'm a wholehearted believer of the Bible, and I believe everything that it says and what it stands on. But the Bible was the Bible back in the day. And while the principles are still there, we have evolved. And in my opinion, God created us to be more like him and in his own image. And therefore, I feel he created people and professions to do some of the things to help our physical body. And I think that also includes mental health. And so it just bothers me and vexes me to hear Christians just sort of downplay somebody's mental health. I don't think that there would be the research and things that are out there in the world for people to really be like, these are facts. Like, there's some chemical imbalances in the brain and it hurts people and people shy away from the church. So I want to be able to communicate in a different way to say, hey, we can use all of this. You can pray about it, but you also can go see a therapist, and it's okay to do both. So that's my little thing.
Like the whole thing says, faith without works is dead.
It really is.
So you can have your faith, but without that plan, without that action, it's not going anywhere.
Right. And I also feel like, God created us, no matter what the situation is, he created us, and we might be broken, but he sees things in people and he can make it something very beautiful. And so for people to downplay somebody else's struggle or somebody else's brokenness, I don't think that's right. So I'm going to leave you with a scripture, as I always do, and it comes from John, the 16th chapter and the 33rd verse. It says, I have told you all this so that you may have peace in me. Here on earth you will have many trials and sorrows, but take heart because I have overcome the world. So it is what it is.
I don't think you need to explain that one.
It is what it is. And, I just feel like our fellow Christians can be more like Jesus and embrace people and, give them a prayer. Pray for them, but also let them seek out the other help that they need. What y'all got?
I'm gonna tell you a secret. I pray every night, and I also go to therapy. Okay, and I think that they both help.
Yeah.
That's my little tidbit.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I think that it's very difficult sometimes when you touched on the part of people stray away from the church, because there's an aspect of it that I don't think a lot of us get from the church that we truly need, because like you said, we're in an ever-evolving world, and in an ever-evolving world you have to match the times. You can't tell somebody something that does not apply to 2018 or does not apply to their life. And I think that a lot of people are waiting for that in church, and I think a lot of people are wanting that from church. And a lot of people, especially, your millennials who are leaving the church because they don't feel like they're getting their needs met based off of the fact that, if you do have mental health, it's just not addressed in the church. And, the old, it's the devil, or, throw some holy water at it or whatever it is. I just think that we need to, increase our education and our communication as well in the church. As we do outside of the church. And so hopefully that can help something or someone.
And no shade either to the church, because there are, I think there are a lot of churches that are being more progressive, and there are churches who are hiring counselors, or the ministers in the church are being trained in counseling, so that whenever people are coming to them, they are actually using evidence-based practices in working with the people in their congregation. So, there are still some people that are kind of like more old school and will tell you to pray, but there are a lot of churches that are really progressive and are really doing the work alongside us. And if you aren't being fed in the church that you're in, then it might mean that you should go to another pasture that is has the grass that might help you, that might feed you.
Right, and that doesn't always mean leaving your church. It's just meaning adding a resource so you can get that other piece fed.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Girl. I needed that. Praise God.
Well, that's episode 3.
Yes.
Woo,
I hope you all enjoyed it. I did.
That was soulful to me.
Honey, that snatched my life.
Over here thinking long and hard.
Listen, let me just shout out fans. Fans, I just need for you to comment on our page. Tell me where I can find a church fan with Harriet Tubman on the back. I just need one.
I got one that got Martin Luther King, but I don't know if that really is the same thing.
Our church fans got some cute little children on there.
I just need one.
No, you're not going to make one at Kinko's. Go make one at Kinko's.
But yeah, like CiCi said, shout us out on our page, like, comment, tell us what you like, tell us
Share.
what you didn't like, let us know what you want to hear more of. And this topic was really good. It might be one that we want to talk about more offline in our group. Shameless plug. You can find us on Facebook at the number 4 SISTAHS podcast. That is 4 Sisters Podcast on Facebook. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.